Welcome everyone. Could already say a good night of Shabbos as we learn the segment which is known as For the Shabbos Table, and it is made possible by a very generous grant by the Reuben family with the tefillah to Hashem that they should be Vayakhail to a healthy male son. May it come quickly. And of course that they should have hatzlacha in ruchnius and in gashmius. In this week's parsha it says, Lo yisevaru eish b'chol moshvei seichem. You should not kindle a fire in all of your habitats. B'yom HaShabbos. We know that the tzedokim, as they do many times, they misinterpret this pasuk, and they say it's literal that you shouldn't have a fire burning in your house, and therefore they sit in the dark. And it's because of that, lahitzi milibon shel tzedokim, that we Ashkenazim have the delicious Shabbos food called cholent, because in order to have a good cholent, it needs to sit on the fire throughout the night. So we show lahitzi milibon shel tzedokim that that's not what it means. It means you're not allowed to make a fire on Shabbos, but you could have a fire. The Sfardim have also a delicious concoction called the chamin, which also is on the fire the entire night. Lahitzi milibon shel tzedokim. But there is a question that the Gemara asks. We know that we know the 39 malachas because Shabbos is juxtaposed to the Mishkan. So the 39 malachas that were done in the Mishkan, like for example all the different steps in baking bread, which were done for the lechem aponim, and all of the different avodas, there were 39 avodas that were done in the Mishkan. Those 39 malachas we desist from on Shabbos. It happens to be that the gematria in Atbash of Perech it's really fascinating. That a Tosfos brings down a gematria in Atbash. Atbash is Aleph equals Tov and Beis equals Shin. So Perech in Atbash is Vov Gimel Lamed Vigal, which is gematria 39. So it's a double-stepped gematria. First we take Perech and convert it into Atbash, Vav Gimel Lamed, and then we take the gematria of Vav Gimel Lamed. Vav is 6, Gimel is 3, that's 9, and Lamed is 30, is 39. And Tosfos says this teaches us that what malachas did Paro force us to do in Mitzrayim? All the 39 malachas of Shabbos. And what's the significance of that? Significance of that is, first of all, that in the second Luchas, when it says that Shabbos is Vayakhail Yetzias Mitzrayim, it fits perfectly. Because when we rest from the 39 malachas, those were the 39 malachas that we were made to do in Egypt. So the Perach, the 39, we rest from Vayakhail Yetzias Mitzrayim. Also, we know that Hashem took us out, right? We know He took us out. Me'eretz Mitzrayim, me'beis avodim. He freed us as slaves, and He said, "Now ki li b'nei Yisrael avodim." Now instead, Hashem amai avodim. So therefore, we took the 39 labors that we had to do for Paro, and we used those 39 to build Hashem's Mishkan. So we already know the 39 malachas. We also know it from a famous gematria. The Gemara in Shabbos says, it says about Shabbos, Eile HaDvarim. So Eile is b'gematria 36. Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, A is 5, that's 36. Devarim is another 2, Miyat Rabim Shnayim, so that's 38. HaDvarim is 39. So we know the 39 malachas. Why is Loisavaru Eish singled out? It's a famous question. So the Gemara in Shabbos gives two answers. One is Lalav Yotzasa, to tell us that although for the other 38 malachas there's the punishment of skila, but making a fire is only a lav. We don't paskin that way. We will paskin like the other answer, that it singles out lo yisavaru lechalek yotzasa, to tell us that for each av malacha that a person does unwittingly, he's chayiv a separate chatas. Just like if he, let's say he would make a fire and also write. So he's chayiv 2 sin offerings if he does them unwittingly. We might think they all go under the rubric of Chilul Shabbos, but if he forgot that writing was forbidden, and if he forgot that making a fire was forbidden, he's chayiv a single chatas for each one. So it would be possible that it could be chayiv 39 chatos. Then should it be that he forgot the whole Shabbos? No, he remembers Tchumen. According to Rabbi Kiva, that Tchumen is daraisa. So he could be chayiv up to 39. So that's why it singles out lo yisavaru eish, to tell you that for each one you're chayiv. So of course the question is, so then it's back to the drawing board. So why did it single out making a fire, single out writing, single out building, single out threshing, single out making the loom? Why did it single out just making a fire? So there's different opinions. This Psikta Zutrasa says that since it says about fire, Eish Tamid Tukad Ala Mizbeach Lo Yisichbeh, that a perpetual fire was on the Mizbeach, never extinguished, so they made a fire even on Shabbos. So I might think in honor of the Shabbos, you could make a fire even outside of the Mikdash. Kamash Malan, no, in the Mikdash they could do it. But in your own habitats, you can't make a fire. Others say, many others say it's coming to, the Chizkuni says it on the page. The Chizkuni says that it's coming to tell you that Shabbos is different than Yom Tov. On Yom Tov we're allowed to cook. Loichel nefesh, we're allowed to make, it's still Yom Tov. We're allowed to cook. So I might think that you could make a fire to cook on Shabbos too. Oichel nefesh is not allowed. But I saw an amazing pshat. Really, it delighted me, this pshat today. I had such a simcha to see this pshat. It said over b'shem 2 great giants. The Tiferes Yohainason, Rabbi Yohainason Eibshitz, and the Imrei Emes, the Ger Rebbe. They both gave this pshat. Zeichet Tzadikim Levrachas Chusam Yagan Aleina. Why do we rest on Shabbos? We rest on Shabbos because Hashem rested from creation. So we rest from that which Hashem created. But He didn't create fire. Fire was first created by man on Motzei Shabbos. It says that when Hashem kicked them out of Gan Eden on Motzei Shabbos, He kicked them into darkness, and Adam never saw darkness, because the whole Shabbos, it was light. Even Friday night, it was light in Gan Eden. That's why it doesn't say Vayerev or Yivayka Yom HaShvi. There was no night in Gan Eden. It doesn't say Vayerev or Yivayka. It says by all the other days Vayerev or Yivayka. By Shabbos, it doesn't say Vayerev or Yivayka Yom HaShabbos. Because there was no night in Gan Eden. So the first time Adam saw night was when he was kicked out and he got scared. So Hashem taught him how to rub two sticks together or two rocks together. That's why only on Motzei Shabbos do we make the bracha Barei Marei Eish. Because that's when fire was created. Oh. So God didn't rest from making fire. Because he didn't make the fire. Man made the fire on Motzei Shabbos. So therefore we would think, okay, we can make a fire. That's not Zeichel L'Maaseh Bereishis because God didn't make the fire. Tells the pasuk, even so, Lo Yisavaru Eish B'chol Ma'ishrei Seichem B'Yom HaShabbos. A very, very brilliant answer. Doesn't need my askama. However, this is the halachic aspect, and people are listening, Rabbi Weiss, we're not used to such kind of talk on these shiurim. Give us a little musar. In the Medrash HaGadol, it says, Lo Yisavaru Eish B'chol Ma'ishrei Seichem B'Yom HaShabbos, means don't cause there to be a fire in any of your habitats on the Shabbos day. Because if people are not going to be careful with Hilchos Shabbos, they could be punished by fire. That's Gemara in Shabbos. Gemara in Shabbos, on Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Bey, says, Ein adleikim mitzuya b'Shabbos, a fire breaking out on Shabbos is only found only in a place that they desecrate the Shabbos. And the Gemara quotes a pasuk, if you don't listen to me to sanctify the Shabbos day, I will ignite a fire in your gates. It will consume the palaces of Yerushalayim. And the Gemara says, what does it mean it won't be extinguished? I'll cause the fire to be there when there's nobody around to put it out. Scary thing. So one of the meanings of Lo Yisavaru Eish B'chol Ma'ishrei Seichem B'Yom HaShabbos is be sure to keep the Shabbos. Don't cause there to be a fire. Because if Hashem sees that people are being Mechal Shabbos, he could cause a fire. Then you should ask, Rabbi Weiss, why is it that there's many people that are Mechal Shabbos? Why isn't there should be a lot of fire engines? Not even fire engines, because they won't be around. Should be a lot of houses burnt down. The answer is always in these things there are other considerations. People do things where they merit protection, or their ancestors did things that merit protection. But we see that one of the things that causes fire is not keeping Shabbos. Now, the Alshich says something, the Alshich HaKadosh, in our tradition, not many people carry the suffix of HaKadosh. Of course, there's Rabbeinu HaKadosh. But amongst more modern times, it's the Alshich HaKadosh, the Arachayim HaKadosh, and the Shalah HaKadosh. They had the merit. So one of our great holy teachers, who history decided that he should always be referred to as the Alshich HaKadosh, the holy Alshich. Listen to how Alshich learns. Lo Yisavaru Eish B'chol Ma'ishrei Seichem B'Yom HaShabbos. The Alshich says any time we sin, we are fueling the future fire of our Gehenna. So that if a person sits down and speaks Lashon Hara, should have the imagery that he's fueling, stoking his own furnace in Gehenna. Says the Alshich, it's bad enough to do that during the week. But on Shabbos, Hashem gives us a gift of a neshama yisera. If we go ahead and sin on Shabbos, we are forcing that pure neshama yisera that Hashem gave us to sin as well. So the Alshich says, Lo yisavaru eish, don't kindle a fire in Gehenna b'yom HaShabbos, because a sin that's done on Shabbos is that much worse. Now I want to add something to this. I want to add that there's another reason why a sin on Shabbos is worse. You see, usually we have a fight between two equal forces. And we know that they're equal forces. That's what makes it such a fight. It says Azazel, right? The two twin goats. The one that went in the Kodesh Kedoshim, that's the Tzad of Kedusha. And Azazel is the Tzad of Tumah. And they're equal. That's why Azazel stands for Zelu Uma Zeh Os Elikim. One paralleling the other. They're equal forces. And that's why it's such a battle. The Chinuch says that it's a battle royal, and the Yetzer Hara has home team advantage because this earth is a place of Gashmias. So the Yetzer Hara has home team advantage. The Chinuch says that's why Hashem gave us mitzvahs and Torah to equal it out. But on Shabbos, we got the edge. Because Hashem gives us a neshama yisera. So on Shabbos, we have the upper hand. So to sin on Shabbos is worse. You had the upper hand and you sin. So lo yisavaru eish, don't kindle that fire in Gehenna, your future Gehenna, lo yaleinu, especially on the Shabbos day. And then we have the Tikkunei Zayar. The Tikkunei Zayar says that fire here means anger, rage. And the Torah is saying that be very careful, especially not to get angry on the Shabbos day. Lo yisavaru eish b'chol moshvei seichem, in all families, the fire of anger should never be kindled on the Shabbos day. Remember that. Remember, just like we're reminded that, God forbid, we shouldn't get angry in the sukkah. The sukkah, when we're under the tzela de memnusa, we're together with the Ushpiz and Kaddish, we shouldn't get angry. We're also reminded that on Rosh Hashanah we shouldn't get angry. Get angry on Rosh Hashanah, then that's a sign that it'll be an angry year. It's also, it says the Tikkunei Zayar lo yisavaru eish b'chol moshvei seichem b'yom HaShabbos. Make a concerted effort, even if you have to bite your tongue. Make a concerted effort not to get angry on the Shabbos day. Finally, the Shabbos Rabbim says another pshat. The Shabbos Rabbim says that here fire means the fire of machloikis, of fighting. Be very careful. Here you have people, they gather together, and they're not busy. You know, Ramila used to say the safest guy is the one that's working under the car. When people aren't busy, they could get in trouble. He says, be careful not to fall into the fire of feuding and quarreling and fighting on Shabbos. We know that Machlokes is an anagram of chelik mavas, a portion of death. But the Shabbos Rambam says, especially on Shabbos, he says, neshamas, we're united with our neshamas. Because our neshamas they're all common. They're all a chelik elikam imal. They're all a portion of God. The body, everybody is different. One's a tailor, one's a barber, one's a plumber, one's a lawyer, one's a doctor, one's a cab driver. So there, we have a lot of differences. On Shabbos day, the body is also the same. We're all at rest. So therefore, Hashem expects us on Shabbos to get along one with another. So the Loisavaro Eish on Shabbos especially. Now it's already 21 minutes. And I'm going to embark on a discussion that needs a lot more time. So I'm going to try to do it briefly. And even if I go over a little bit, it's very worth it. The subject matter is very important. And I will add that even though this is called for the Shabbos table, this subject matter is a little bit more of adult material. Let me mention again that to everybody that's listening and enjoying, we're looking for a sponsor. We still do not have a sponsor for next week's Chumash year. 718-916-3100. It'll either be a Pekude or it'll be on the Haggadah. I'm not sure. But either way, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Vayakhail nechoshes v'kanoi nechoshes, and they made the fountain of shining copper, and its base nechoshes, b'marois hatzoivos, with the mirrors, asher tzavu pesach oil moed, which the women gathered and gave to the oil moed, gave to the tabernacle. Now, the reason why the kiyah was made with a material that's mirror, there's different reasons. One reason is because the kohanim had to be very careful not to go in to the avodah with a stain, with a revav al bigdei. So therefore, they were able to check their bigdei kahuna if they were clean. Also, it says that when the many women brought their karbanos after giving birth, etc., the kohen was supposed to look at the bailam, and the kohen didn't want to look at the women's faces, so they looked at their reflection in the mirror instead. Those are different reasons. But over here, Rashi tells us an interesting thing. Rashi says that when they brought the mirrors, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to take them. Because Moshe Rabbeinu felt that this is a place of spirituality, and this is at the forefront, the achana of spirituality, and the mirrors were used for the most sensual of all physical pleasures, to prepare themselves for relations with their husbands. So that's the height, the greatest sensual pleasure. So Moshe Rabbeinu felt it didn't match. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, Kabel, ki elu chavivin alai min hakol. These mirrors, they're more precious to me than all of the materials, more than the gold and the silver, and they're more precious than anything. She'al yedayim hamidu anoshim, because through them, they're called maros tzoivos, The word tzvais is like tzvais. Through them, the women brought tzvais rabbis from Mitzrayim. They caused the men to have generations. The men, they couldn't see having more children. They didn't want to mate. They said, look, we're supposed to be here 400 years. It's hundreds of years more. We don't want to have children to die in perpetual slavery. So what did they do? No, so they took water from the Nile, and miraculously half of it turned into small fish, which were very fertile, and they bathed their husband, and they gave him the fish which made them fertile. V'noidlas hamaris kol achas, and each of the women took their mirror, and roa atzmam imbala b'mara, they saw themselves with their husband in the mirror, umeshadlasei b'dvarim leimer, and they seduced their husbands by saying, ani noa mimcha, I'm more beautiful than you. Look, I'm more beautiful than you. Now this is very strange. Does that sound very seductive? Don't you see that I'm more beautiful than you? First of all, and it's such an obvious question on a Rashi if you stop to think. First of all, why did they need the mirror? Why didn't they say, look at me, you see how pretty I am? And the same way, why did they say, look at me, I'm more pretty than you? That's look how pretty I am for you, but I'm more pretty than you? So I want to explain. It's interesting that not many people speak about this very strange Rashi. I'm not calling Rashi strange, and enigmatic. Obviously, Rashi felt that if she said, look at me, he wouldn't be able to look at himself and her at the same time. Because if he's looking at her, he's facing her, so he can't see himself. Obviously, she wanted a selfie. She wanted that the husband should be able to see the two of them together. That could only be with looking in a mirror. Now, what did she mean? Ani noa mimcha. So I have two explanations. One is, she was telling her husband, you know why I'm pretty? It's from you. I'm fortunate enough to be married to a good man who treats me well, and therefore I shine. Ani noa mimcha. Look at me, you see I'm pretty? It's because of how you treat me. That's very seductive. And also it could be another pshat. Ani noa mimcha means that you know I'm pretty. I'm pretty for who? For who am I pretty? Hashem didn't make me pretty for myself. Hashem certainly didn't make me pretty for others. Hashem made me pretty for you. That we should engage in furthering dairis. Now, by the way, before we get into more details, the Das HaKein Balitaisa says there's another two reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to accept the mirrors. First, he was worried that on Yom Kippur it says V'kol Adam lo yeh ba'el ma'id. Nobody should be in the El Ma'id. That means that what the Kohen Gadol does on Yom Kippur, it's supposed to be private. But if you put the mirrors in the front over there and the doors of the Heichal are open, then everybody will see the reflection of what's going on in Yom Kippur, anybody that was in the Azara. They'll see the reflection in the mirror. And also he was afraid that when they had to wash their hands and feet, Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. So they bent down to wash their hands and the feet from the spigots. And if it's a mirror, it will look like they're bowing down to their reflection. And those are reasons that, but Hashem said, no, this is very important. This is very important. You have to know that the women making themselves desirable for their husbands, because that, of course, that's also what they did with the mirrors, putting on their makeup, making their hair beautiful. We have to know that that's the achana for shalom bayis. That's why the kiyur v'kanai was used for the achana for the avodah. And remember, the place of the Beis Hamikdash was a place of shalom, right? The Mishmar Hayotze gave a bracha to the Mishmar HaNichnas. Misha shiken shmoi b'bayis zezehu yishkan beinechem ava v'achva v'shalom v'reyes. The Shach al HaTorah says that the word marois hatzayvais, the word tzayvais, comes from the word tzvi, which means desire. Like in the pasuk Nakalas Tzvi, that Eretz Yisrael is a place that's desired by everybody. Or I'll add in Akdamas that we say on Shavuos, we say Tzavi v'chamid v'rogig, desired and wanted and pined for, is all the Yilan Belu'usa. Hashem desires and pines and wants those that weary themselves in Torah. So he says that it was called Maras HaTzayvais because the women that were outside, they desired to see the Avodah. So therefore they wanted mirrors so they could see the reflection of what the Kohanim were doing from the outside, from the Ezras Noshim. But I think, using this etymology of the Shach, that Maris HaTzayvus is that with these mirrors they showed their cheshik for their husbands. That's a purpose of a woman, to show her desire for her husband. The Gemara says that's why a woman is by nature given a softer voice for two things: for her to coo to her child and to talk seductively to her husband. And we see that the fact that Leah showed Yaakov, I want you so much, she showed that she wanted him and waited outside until his animal passed by. She showed desire. That's why she conceived then Yisachar, the great Shevet of Yisachar. Rabbi Yaakov Emden says, when a wife shows desire, that's what it says. Ve'el ishech tishukasech, to your husband will be your desire. Chaim HaKadosh says, shemis'abel lebaleim tamid, they're constantly desirous of their husbands. Even though the Shari Aaron says, even though they would suffer all the pain of Leda and everything, they still desire their husbands. All the imagery of Shir HaShirim, of the beauty of a woman. You have to know, this is a fact that an Isha Kesheira shows that she wants her husband. That's what we say about the Eishes Chayil, that Pia Pascha B'chachma, she opens up her mouth with wisdom. The Torah's Chesed al Lishaina, and the Torah of kindness is on her lips. That's the meaning. And when it says we put in the charoises apple, So the Gemara says this is because it says, Tachas atapuach ararticha. Under the apple tree you awaken your husbands. Ararticha is from a lashon of ariri, of childlessness. Otherwise it would have been childlessness. The dipping the apple in the honey on Rosh Hashanah is invoking that merit. The apple, the remembrance of the apple tree, and honey is b'gematria wife. The wife is the one that invites, not prepare. Rashi says she's not supposed to be tovas prepare. She's not supposed to ask with her mouth. It has to be indirectly. That's why the mirrors were used. That's why the maris hatzayvos were used. And we have to understand how important this is. I've said this many times, that bia, which is the union of a husband and wife, is the same letters as baka. It brings Hashem into the marriage. It brings the Shekhinah into the home. That's why the baka is the yud of the ish and the hey of the isha converge. That's baka. That's the same letters as bia, is baka. But if it's not handled, if it's mishandled, then from bia becomes ava. Same letters. It's an anagram. Ava is enmity. So this is something very important. Now, since it's so important and the Shekhinah is at stake, that's why there's such a big Yetzer Hara in this area. And the Yetzer Hara frustrates people, so it needs to be worked upon. Some people need to ask for advice and help in this area, even if it's a little embarrassing. We went a little over time. I told you the subject matter was very important. We want to thank everybody for joining us, and we hope to see you for the daf on Motzei Shabbos, a double daf of Agadita at 9:45. At 9:45 at RMMWSI. At zoomdaf.com with capital letters RMMW, all capital. If you want to sponsor a share, 718-916-3100, RMMWSI at AOL.com. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.